Yo, what's going on? This is that boy Fred. Welcome back to another video. Now, today's video, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, we're doing another versus battle, but it's gonna be slightly different because we're doing a full Bleach versus battle. This is gonna be the first one to go up on the channel. You know, I've done One Piece, Dragon Ball. Well, I take that back. I haven't did a Dragon Ball one yet, but it's coming. We have Naruto, One Piece. We done had some mix of both of those. But we haven't got a Bleach one out, so this will be the first one. And these are two of my favorite characters in Bleach, being Shunsui and Kisuke. You know, two top tier characters in the verse. I wouldn't say they're high up like Yamamoto and Yhwach and Aizen and Ichigo, but they're definitely top tier characters. And this is a very interesting fight in my opinion because they're both around the same level of I just said. And I'm pretty sure this is a very anticipated fight in the Bleach community. We're just a little bit too quiet. Not a lot of people get heated about versus battles in the Bleach community. So I thought I'll hop on the mic and see how we can figure out who will be the winner of this match right here. So with all that out the way, let's get straight into the video. All right, so firstly, getting into the fight, we want to go over both fighters' feats in the manga, especially because in the anime they're a little outdated. So, starting off with Shunsui, we have Shunsui's main fight in the manga, which is against Lily Barrow, one of the higher tier Stern Ritters, the ones who Yhwach specifically brought to the Soul Palace with him, along with Kisuke, who also fought Askin. So, with Lily Barrow, Shunsui in his fight with Lily Barrow for the most part was doing extremely well for him, considering the fact that Lily Barrow was able to take out not too long ago about 3 or 4 of the Zero Division. I believe it was only Ichibei who he didn't take out, who he then proceeded to leave for Yhwach, who then proceeded to beat Ichibei later on because Ichibei was, of course, the stronger one out of all the Zero Division. But that's neither here nor there. It is more so impressive the simple fact that Lily Barrow was able to take out multiple members of the Zero Division. And it was actually really him. Askin and the other ones really Askin helped out a little bit, but for the most part, the other ones kind of like stood back and let those two do most of the work. And yeah, so it was extremely impressive for him to be able to take on those Zero Division members, let alone kill them. And then you have Shunsui, who's out here going at a pretty decent toe-to-toe fight with him at this point in time, until Shunsui realizes that now Lily Barrow is kind of getting upset because Shunsui's doing so well against him. And since Shunsui's doing so well against him and he's actually kind of beating him at this point in time, he proceeds to now open up his third eye. I'm sorry, I fumbled that. He proceeds to open up his third eye, which then transform him into, now I'm not going to say the Japanese term because I actually cannot pronounce it and I don't want to butcher it, but in the English translation it is called the Quincy's holy form. So he proceeds to go into that form, and from this point on, now Shunsui he's not winning the fight anymore, but he didn't start losing neither. He just kind of, I don't want to say stalemating, because you honestly can say that Lily Barrow started to begin to win because he was starting to overpower Shunsui until Shunsui went into his Bankai, which I'm also not going to try and pronounce that because he has an extremely hard Bankai name to pronounce. I'm going to have to go back and do some more practicing before I try and pronounce that thing. But yes, he decides to use his Bankai, which we all know it's Child's Game. It has Axe. It is honestly, it's probably one of my favorite Bankais in the entire series. But his Bankai is what literally put him back above Lily Barrow, and proceeded, as he then played the games, whether it was the stages where he then proceeded to drown Ryatsu, take damage, have the poison, and then eventually once he gets to the last stage, then he proceeds to cut off Lily Barrow's head. But sadly, Lily Barrow in his holy form is intangible and he can't really die. So now he is more so immortal. Intangible wasn't the right word. He was more so immortal at this point in time. So then it proceeds to turn into a very difficult battle for Shunsui because now he's used his Bankai, but it sadly didn't work. But after that, it then proceeds to turn into Lisa's fight, but that cuts off that part for Shunsui. Now we move into Kisei part of his, feat section, which he fought Askin, who is also a high Stern Ritter, who, like I stated earlier, Yhwach also brought him to the Soul Palace with him, so he was handpicked. And granted, Lily Barrow was probably a little bit stronger than Askin because Askin was a late pick when Lily Barrow was already solidified as one of Yhwach's squad. That still doesn't, take away from the fact that he was picked. So, in Kisei's fight, it was slightly different because Kisei, I wouldn't say he had help, but there were more people around him. But those people were kind of fodder and they kind of got beat relatively easy by Askin, while Kisei was the only one who was able to withstand this poison that was basically kind of really putting everyone else out, which Askin's ability is very strange. It's like a blood manipulation poisons type thing. It's very cool. It's very interesting. So Askin also stated himself that Kisei was so strong that he felt that he's a little too strong. So instead of doing what he did to everyone else, he said, you know what, specifically, I'm going to destroy each of your organs individually so I can break you down slowly. But then that was the point where Kisei then proceeds to whip out his Bankai, which then is, of course I know it's better Hime, but I can't say the rest. But it gives up this big woman behind him who basically his Bankai is my favorite in the series because it now proceeds to reattach and restructure anything that he wants. And as he does that, he proceeds to absolutely destroy Askin after that point. He leads to Grimjow coming up from a portal that he said opened up to rip out his heart, and he basically ends up calling it GG's on Askin. So now going into this, we both know we know that both of these fighters are extremely strong, like I've already stated earlier. But now in this point in the fight, I believe this fight isn't going to it isn't going to matter too much about who has the stronger Shikai or any of that. Their Shikais aren't really going to matter. And in this fight, I feel like it really depends on like their Bankais especially, and of course how fast the characters are, and other factors like that play into it. Because if I'm being honest, I do believe Kisei has the better Kido than Shunsui, because Kisei, as we all know, was able to basically almost kill the first formed Hogyoku version of Aizen, which Aizen even stated himself, had he not been fused to Hogyoku, he probably would have died to Kisei's Kido. So in something like that, that absolutely gives Kisei a very impressive Kido feat in that type of aspect, while Shunsui on the other hand doesn't really have a lot of Kido feats. And also Kido was a main thing that Kisei was a specialist in, and plus his Shikai had a lot of Kido into it anyway. So in a situation like that, I can give that to him. And also I feel like their speed is relatively, because in the last stage of Shunsui's fight with with Lily Barrow, he was speed blitzing him kind of. The same thing goes for Kisei. He was speed blitzing Askin to cut him up at certain points. So I believe this fight basically revolves around both these characters' Bankai, which I then proceed, if I'm going to give the fight to someone, I'm definitely going to give it to Kisuke Urahara, mainly because, I know a lot of people might disagree, because Shunsui is a guaranteed kill, but the thing about it is Shunsui's takes too long to get to the guaranteed kill. Shunsui cannot skip around the stages to get to the last stage. He has to go through each individual one, and if he gets killed before then, that's just, it is what it is. He got killed before then. The only reason the only reason Lily Barrow wasn't able to kill him is because he didn't know what he was getting into. Now the only difference is Kisuke knows who Shunsui is. He knows about his abilities. Most of all the Soul Reapers know about each other's ability, it seems like, except for some of them don't know the true intent behind others, as we've seen with Aizen, if he was able to manipulate everyone. But for the most part, they should have a relative idea of what everyone's Shikais and Bankais does. Not so much Bankais, but definitely Shikais. And Shikais are most of the time not too far from what your Bankai really is. And so then in a situation like that, Kisei's Bankai is definitely going to give him the upper hand in the battle, mainly because he activates Better Hime immediately. He can immediately start restructuring things, like taking off Shunsui's arm if he wants to. He can take off Shunsui's head if he wants to, just by reconstructing it. And as we've seen, he was able to create a hole in Askin's arm, so it's very able of him to do something like that to Shunsui as well, to be able to take the victory while Shunsui is going through all these stages to get to the last stage. So probably before Shunsui can even guarantee the kill and get to the last stage, he probably will be dead by that fact, because of Kisuke's smart intelligence. And also another feat is Kisuke is one of the smartest characters in the show, and in the fight against Stark, Stark was able to figure out what Shunsui's Shikai did in absolutely no time. And Kisuke is on the exact same level, if not greater, than Aizen's intelligence. So it will be no question in my mind that he will be immediately figure out what Shunsui's Shikai and Bankai is. So they really wouldn't probably get to him as quickly as it would with anybody else. You know, not to say Lily Barrow was dumb or anything, because he certainly wasn't, but not on Kisuke's intelligence wise, most definitely not. So yes, in the end of it, I'm going to give the fight to Kisuke. You know, if you disagree with me, leave it down in the comment section below. But with all that out the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.